this or that. But I think, I have to admit, in the end, I ended up probably.
Please subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it truly means so much to me. Queen Camilla's summer breaks were always brushed off as private time. Every year, she slipped away to the same countryside villa. No staff entourage, no family visits, location locked down tight. At first, nobody blinked. Then King Charles made a surprise decision to inspect the property himself. What he and Prince William reportedly uncovered inside those walls sent serious tension through royal circles. So what was really happening behind those hedges? And how did a simple summer retreat turn into a full-blown royal mystery? Let's break down the truth behind Queen Camilla's secret holidays, because this story goes deeper than anyone expected. Each summer, as the rest of the royal family traveled abroad, Camilla disappeared to the same hidden estate in the English countryside. Same timing, same place, same silence. No announcements, no press notes, nothing added to the royal schedule. Palace staff had long been told not to mention her getaway plans. It became her private ritual, quiet, controlled, and completely off-limits. The villa itself was tucked behind towering hedges and old stone walls, surrounded by perfectly trimmed gardens. Locals nicknamed it the Silent House, because nothing ever seemed to come from it. No music, no laughter, not even casual staff chatter. Neighbors barely saw movement. Dark vehicles would arrive one morning, and 2 weeks later, they were gone. During those days, the property went fully off-grid. Phones secured, deliveries blocked, direct contact not happening, not even for the king. At first, it looked like harmless rest, but over time, insiders say it started to feel intense. Early in their marriage, Charles reportedly tried to join her once. She declined, politely but firmly, saying she needed quiet to think. That explanation became the standard answer every single year. Prince William never publicly questioned it, but people noticed the distance. Royal holidays usually emphasized family unity, yet this tradition stood apart. No relatives, no friends, no outside visitors. What should have been a simple retreat slowly turned into one of the most whispered about mysteries inside palace walls. Staff followed strict rules. Anyone assigned to the villa signed tight confidentiality agreements. Drivers, butlers, housekeepers. No one was allowed to speak about what happened there. It was like she stepped into a separate world that existed alongside the monarchy, yet outside its daily structure. Those who worked during her stays described an atmosphere of extreme precision. Everything had to be perfect. Floors polished, curtains aligned exactly, tasks executed without delay, conversation kept to a minimum. It wasn't chaos, it was control. Outside the palace gates, media curiosity grew louder. Publications like the Daily Mail and the Mirror questioned the annual disappearances. Headlines called them mystery getaways. Some reports speculated about private advisors. Others hinted at personal projects away from the spotlight. None of it was confirmed, but the silence only made the rumors stronger. Photographers tried tracking the convoy routes, but every time the trail went cold before reaching the estate. The few grainy photos that surfaced showed little more than a gated entrance and a shadow near a window. No clear answers, no inside access. And that's what made the entire situation feel bigger than just a holiday. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic on the surface. It was quiet, controlled, and carefully guarded. And sometimes that's what makes people start asking the loudest questions. What made it even stranger was the total blackout of leaks. In a world where royal whispers usually hit tabloids within hours, Camilla's villa stayed sealed tight. Nothing slipped. Nothing surfaced. It ran on strict control. Staff didn't text or call. They passed handwritten notes under doors. Meals were prepared exactly as ordered and left outside her suite without a single word spoken. Access to the main house required clearance from her private security chief. Even letters from the palace were screened first and delivered through an internal courier who never even saw her face. The rules were intense. When a young gardener once tried to snap a phone photo of the grounds, he was dismissed that same evening and replaced by someone from outside the area. No warnings, no second chances. Here's what most people didn't realize. The security setup wasn't normal for a countryside retreat. Local contractors estimated the system cost over £300,000. Motion sensors, underground trip alarms, high-definition cameras hidden inside garden lamps. Guards rotated every 6 hours, watching everything around the clock. Even when the estate looked empty, checkpoints stayed active. Every vehicle, even palace-cleared ones, was searched before entry. The biggest shock? Not even senior palace officials could request security footage without Camilla's written approval.
That we are on the verge of a worldwide epidemic, and others who claim
it was her territory and she controlled it completely. Inside, the atmosphere felt polished to perfection, almost too perfect. Rooms were symmetrical, curtains drawn halfway to let light in, but blocked the outside world. Fresh white roses replaced daily. The air carried a soft lavender scent mixed with something sterile, like preserved museum space. Floors gleamed, no books out of place, no personal clutter. Visitors described it as beautiful, yet unsettling. It felt staged. Her daily routine added to the mystery. She spent hours reading in the garden, but staff noticed she rarely turned pages. At dawn, she walked alone around the property, sometimes whispering quietly to herself. Other days, she stayed inside with curtains drawn. The only sounds were soft footsteps moving from room to room. Staff occasionally heard low murmurs behind closed doors, but no one dared ask questions. Her meals were simple and repetitive. Light soups, tea, no entertainment requests, no guests. The villa became a world built entirely around silence and precision. Within royal circles, the estate became symbolic. When someone said, "She's gone to the villa," it didn't just mean vacation. It meant distance. It meant mystery. Senior aides exchanged looks when her name came up. New staff members were quietly advised not to bring it up at all. Rumors still traveled, some harmless, others more unsettling. Journalists began using the villa as shorthand for secrecy inside the monarchy. Charles respected her privacy, but insiders say he grew curious about what kept drawing her back year after year. William reportedly found it odd that her staff rotation changed constantly, as if she didn't want the same people returning twice. Even more curious, a former dresser once mentioned that the villa's furniture had been replaced 3 times in 10 years. No damage reported, no renovations announced, just complete resets. It almost felt like she wanted to erase any trace of time passing. Yet the pattern never changed. Every summer, Camilla vanished behind those stone walls. 2 weeks later, she returned looking refreshed, but slightly distant. Whatever she sought inside that estate stayed locked within it. And eventually, what seemed like a private ritual began to feel like something else entirely. A secret building quietly in the shadows, waiting for the moment it would finally be brought into the light during a royal property inspection that would shake the family to its core. Things were about to get wild. When King Charles ordered a quiet inspection of royal properties, it was meant to be routine. He'd taken a personal interest in reviewing estates, especially with Parliament questioning royal spending. On paper, it looked simple. Check maintenance, confirm security, move on. There were dozens of properties across the country, from Balmoral Castle to Sandringham House. But one place stood out. The secluded countryside villa Camilla visited every summer. He hadn't stepped inside for years. With Camilla away on her usual overseas retreat, the timing felt right to finally see it for himself. Prince William agreed to go, partly curious, partly unsettled by the long-running mystery. The trip was kept completely quiet. No photographers, no press alerts, just 2 trusted aides and a black Range Rover leaving Windsor Castle before sunrise. The roads were empty, covered in frost and mist as they approached the estate. As they neared the gates, the mood shifted. Even William felt it. The guards looked stunned when they saw the king step out. Unannounced visits weren't common, especially not here. Still, the heavy iron gates creaked open, and the car rolled slowly down the long tree-lined driveway.
No, it was just sort of being with ponies and
The villa appeared through the fog, tall, flawless, and eerily still. Gardens perfectly trimmed, gravel freshly raked. Yet something felt off. The air was heavy, almost swallowed. Charles noticed first, not a single bird in sight. No crows, no sparrows. Even in winter, that was strange. The butler stationed there since the last retreat greeted them nervously, explaining that everything had been kept exactly as Her Majesty left it, following standing orders. Charles stepped into the entrance hall, shoes scraping against polished marble. William scanned the room behind him. The place looked freshly cleaned, not like it had sat empty for weeks. Carpets looked brand new. Silverware gleamed without fingerprints. The scent of lavender mixed with disinfectant hung in the air. Windows were spotless. Curtains perfectly pressed. The fireplace looked untouched. Then Charles noticed something odd. The grandfather clock in the sitting room had stopped at exactly midnight. Its mechanism was modern. It shouldn't have failed. The piano nearby had its cover down, yet the keys beneath had been recently polished. In the corner, a single chair faced the wall, slightly out of alignment with everything else. A chill passed through the room. William quietly said it didn't feel like an empty house. It felt like a place waiting for someone. The deeper they walked, the more staged it felt. In the dining room, 12 crystal glasses were set out, even though Camilla dined alone during her visits. In the study, stacks of letters sat neatly arranged beside a feather pen. A fresh bouquet of white roses stood in a vase identical to one logged in palace records years ago. Time didn't just slow inside those walls, it felt frozen. There's another detail that rarely gets mentioned. In the past, security teams had quietly flagged unusual maintenance reports. Utility records showed fluctuating energy use even when the villa was supposedly empty. Once, an outside contractor claimed he heard faint piano music during the off-season. Those reports were dismissed as technical errors at the time. Standing there now, both Charles and William felt the weight of those details. Nothing was visibly wrong. No damage, no mess, just perfection pushed too far. It wasn't chaotic, it was controlled. They stepped into the library next, a narrow room lined with oak shelves and heavy red drapes. It should have felt warm and scholarly. Instead, the silence pressed in harder than before. The air didn't move, the room didn't breathe, and for the first time, what began as a routine inspection felt like the start of something far bigger than either of them expected. William's eyes locked onto the writing desk first. Several books were pulled slightly out of line. Papers were scattered. Every single page turned face down. The ink on some sheets had faded, like they'd been sitting there for months without being touched. In one corner lay a stack of photographs, all flipped over, their edges curled with age. Charles paused before reaching for them. The room didn't just feel quiet, it felt guarded, private, almost sacred, like stepping into something deeply personal that was never meant to be disturbed. As William scanned the shelves, he noticed faint scratches behind a framed portrait. Tiny marks, nearly invisible, carved into the wall. He leaned closer. They looked like letters, or initials. Half-finished, like someone started writing and abruptly stopped. The air felt colder in that moment. Charles carefully turned over one sheet of paper. The handwriting was unmistakable, Camilla's. But the note itself was sharp and cryptic. It mentioned something being kept hidden until the right time, followed by a name scratched out so aggressively the paper had nearly torn. The tension between father and son tightened instantly. Then William lifted the photographs. He froze. The images were all of Princess Diana, some from public events, others appearing more personal. Along the margins were handwritten notes, circles, underlines, highlighted details. It didn't look like a keepsake collection. It looked analytical, studied, focused. The weight of that realization hung heavy in the room. Charles didn't speak, but his silence said everything. They stepped out of the library without another word and moved toward the master bedroom. The corridor was lined with artwork and neatly placed candles that had never been lit. Their footsteps echoed softly through the stillness. The air grew noticeably colder as they approached the bedroom door. Charles hesitated, fingers brushing the polished handle. A faint scent of perfume lingered in the air. He turned the knob slowly, his hand unsteady.
The Earthshot Prize, the biggest, global environment prize in history.
Inside, the room appeared flawless at first glance. The bed was perfectly made. Sunlight filtered through sheer white curtains. The dressing table was arranged with brushes, jewelry boxes, and perfume bottles placed with surgical precision. But beneath that calm surface, something felt deeply off. One drawer sat slightly open. Inside were envelopes labeled with dates. Dates that matched major public moments from Diana's life years earlier. On top of the dresser was a small box filled with press clippings about the late princess. Some headlines were crossed out in ink. Others had notes scribbled in the margins. There was even a folded napkin from a public charity event Diana once attended, flattened and preserved carefully. Charles stepped back, visibly shaken. What he expected to be routine had turned into something far more complicated. William scanned every corner of the room in silence. The space didn't feel like a retreat. It felt intentional, focused, preserved. They stood there for a long moment, neither speaking. The villa, once described as peaceful and restorative, now felt layered with unspoken history. The inspection that began as standard protocol had shifted into something neither of them had anticipated. They left the bedroom quietly and walked back down the hall. The silence followed them like a shadow. Outside, the estate no longer appeared serene. It felt purposeful, charged. Neither of them discussed what they had seen. Not yet, but both understood this discovery couldn't simply be ignored. The villa wasn't just a private escape. It was a place carrying memories, tensions, and unanswered questions that had lingered for years. As they prepared to leave, William glanced back toward the far wall of the bedroom. His breath caught for a split second. A large portrait of Princess Diana hung there, one of her most recognized public images. The glass was intact, the frame pristine, but something about the intensity of its placement, centered and dominating the wall, felt deliberate. This wasn't random decoration. It wasn't casual nostalgia. It was deliberate preservation. And in that quiet moment, both men understood this inspection had uncovered something far deeper than they were prepared for, something that would force difficult conversations inside the monarchy moving forward. The walls were covered in images of Diana, but not displayed with warmth. Every photo had been altered, crossed out, written over. Some had lines slashed through them. Others had words scribbled across the surface in dark ink. What was once described as a peaceful retreat now felt deeply unsettling. The deeper Charles and William looked, the heavier the room became. Bitterness seemed etched into every corner. Some photographs were torn clean in half. Others had harsh words like fraud or enemy scrawled across them. On the writing desk sat old newspaper clippings from the 1990s, all centered on Diana's public appearances and rising popularity. The margins were filled with tight, controlled notes written in Camilla's recognizable handwriting, neat but sharp. This wasn't casual rivalry. It felt consuming, focused, layered over time. The energy in that room was overwhelming. And then they noticed a framed newspaper image connected to the Paris accident. Beneath it lay a sheet of paper with a chilling handwritten line.
Welsh mounted pony. And I remember there was a very large horse show next door to us called Ditchling Horse Show.
Finally, she is out of the way. The ink matched the rest. The handwriting was the same. The weight of those words shifted the atmosphere completely. William stood still, staring. The silence pressed in hard. Shock gave way to grief, then anger that had nowhere to go. Charles reached for the nearest table, steadying himself. His expression had drained of color. This was no longer just strange. It was deeply disturbing. Behind a wardrobe partially hidden by a curtain, they found something else. A large map pinned to the wall. It outlined cities tied to Diana's past. London, Paris, New York. Each location had dates and small handwritten notes beside it. Labels like charity, hospital visit, dinner, meeting. The markings matched public events from decades earlier. It wasn't random. It was organized, studied, detailed. The kind of tracking that takes time and focus. The realization sat heavy between them. Next to the map was a small chest filled with letters. Most were unsigned but written in the same familiar script. Line after line carried sharp criticism and resentment, circling back to the same subject. William hesitated before unfolding one. The sentences read like fragments of bottled-up emotion. Intense, repetitive, structured, but clearly unresolved. None of it felt balanced. It felt like something preserved and replayed over and over again. As they moved toward the bed, the air felt colder. More photographs were pinned to corkboards. Images of Diana smiling with her sons, attending public events. Over many of them were layered scribbles, notes, and underlines, as if someone had rewritten the narrative in their own private space. This wasn't a passing fixation. It felt rooted, maintained, revisited. Charles slowly understood this wasn't about simple jealousy. It was about trying to control a memory that refused to fade, about wrestling with a legacy that never disappeared from public affection. On the bedside table, a drawer sat locked but not fully closed. William pulled it open. Inside were more photographs, older prints, some reprinted multiple times. It finally made sense why the villa had always been off limits, why staff rotations changed constantly, why the retreats followed the same guarded routine every year. The villa wasn't just private, it was protective, structured to keep something contained within those stone walls. And standing there, surrounded by preserved fragments of the past, both men realized this discovery carried consequences far beyond a simple property inspection. What once looked like peaceful solitude now felt like ritual, a yearly return to a private world built on resentment. Charles and William didn't need to speak. One look was enough. They had to get back to the palace immediately. Too many questions, too many silent years that suddenly made uncomfortable sense. As their car pulled away from the villa, both men understood this wasn't the end of a discovery. It was the start of something far heavier. Whatever had been hidden behind those walls was about to shake everything. Within hours of returning, Charles called a private meeting. Doors shut, phones off. His advisors saw the shock on his face immediately. This wasn't small. It threatened the monarchy's image. When Camilla arrived back, she walked straight into confrontation. Charles and William had everything laid out. Photos, letters, the map. She called it research, but her calm tone shifted when pressed for answers. The room fell into cold silence. Days later, the story leaked. Headlines spread fast. The palace denied it, but public debate exploded. What do you think happened behind those doors? Comment below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for what comes next.